Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the PodUp with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. PodUp, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Thursday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Got an action-packed show lined up for you today. We're going to have Brent Beaird later in the program talking college football. We'll have marvelous Marty Pallman giving us a little Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. But first, we're going to kick the show off with the man himself, Mr. Chris Harry, talking Gator hoops. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Morning, Shane. I thought you were the man himself.
No, you are the man. It's your season. It's basketball season. So Gators get a 78-71 game, a victory over Vanderbilt. I think everybody thought they should beat Vanderbilt. Played pretty well, except for like that last 5 or 6 minutes. Gosh, it got close.
Oh, well, way closer to than the coach would have liked. They didn't score in the last 3:21, but it was the last 10 minutes of the game, I think. Vanderbilt went on a 34-16 run, I believe, over a 9.5 minute stretch. And it was a time where Florida didn't take care of the ball very well. They made some stupid fouls that put Vanderbilt at the line. They just got to close out games better. I mean, there's no sense to be up 22 and then all of a sudden be in a 4-point game with Vanderbilt with the basketball with 30 seconds to go. So the players know that. They talked about it afterwards. Asked Mike White after the game what Vanderbilt did, and he goes, I hadn't even thought about what Vanderbilt did. I thought, well, I'm thinking about what we did, and we can't do the kind of things that we did, whether it was some ill-advised passing or maybe some lack of ball security. But, I mean, Vanderbilt all of their pressure defensively and their energy just went on an uptick, and their trappings were really effective and full court pressure and what have you. And the thing about it is they were doing it a little longer, and Florida was breaking that pressure and getting some easy baskets. Colin Castleton, who didn't score in the first half, he had 13 points in the second half. Some of them because he was able to run the floor during press break and got some easy baskets. And I think he had 6 straight points at one time when the Gators were up by 22. But all of a sudden, Vanderbilt started making some plays. And the one flurry that really did the Gators in, or that made things way more interesting than anybody in the building wanted it to be, aside from Jerry Stackhouse, of course, they hit 3 straight threes, I think, over about a 90-second spot, or 90-second point when Florida had a couple turnovers in between. So it's better when you learn those lessons in victory. But any kind of performance like that down the line against a team, and every team's better than Vanderbilt. They're 0-6 in league play now. Any kind of performance like that against other league teams, you're really putting yourself in a difficult position, and especially this weekend for the SEC Big 12 Challenge. They got to take care of the ball better than West Virginia.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Scottie Lewis comes back, missed several games. Just your thoughts on how you played. I mean, he came in there, had a lot of energy as he normally plays with, scored the basketball. But just your assessment of having him back, because the team had been playing pretty well. I was anxious to see how he got back into the mix.
I give him credit. After the game, he talked about he was worried about being subtraction by addition because he thought the team was playing so well. So he wanted to kind of maybe play maybe kind of. He didn't want to kind of get in the way, but he wanted to get back in the mix, and he was thrown in there a little more than I think he anticipated. Certainly more than the coaches did. I thought they were going to play him 10 to 12 minutes because he had missed 4 games due to those health and safety protocols. You really got to be careful with those as you roll a guy back out onto the floor. But he was back. He played 27 minutes in the game, hit 5 of his first 6 shots. Couple plays where he didn't make any threes. He was all on the attack, and a couple really nice pull-up jumpers where he beat his man off the dribble, and he didn't score in the second half at all, but his defensive energy was there. He was frustrated. I know he missed 2. He's an 81% career free throw shooter. He missed 2 free throws in the last minute that helped put Vandy in. I think it was right before Vandy had the ball down 4. And I was sitting in the arena well after the game was over. He came out and started shooting free throws because he was frustrated at himself. But he also had a foul that he on a missed free throw by Castleton that stopped the clock with 32 seconds left and gave Vanderbilt a free possession with no time off the clock. I mean, there were a couple of things that he didn't do great, or that he would have liked to have back. But it was nice to have him because his energy is infectious. And I mean, the flashes that he showed offensively, he didn't look like he really missed a beat. Now, remember, 2 games before he got sick, he had 2 points against Kentucky and 2 points against Alabama. And before that, he was averaging 14 points and 5 rebounds a game and playing as well as anybody on the team. So he's got to get back to where he was. I think that was a really good step forward for that.
I remember you last year telling us Trey Mann was so talented, you'd see it all in practice. Never really translated to the court last year in games. This year, he's taken that step. He's a really good player.
Yeah, and I did say that last year. I thought before the season started, he was the most across-the-board talented offensive player on the team in terms of a guy who could actually go get a shot. Florida hasn't had guys that can go get their own shot very often the last few years when you really, really think about it. But he is that guy, and it comes so effortlessly to him. I mean, he looks like he's not moving that fast, but he gets that off, and he's got a quick release from the 3-point line and finishing abilities. He can drive to the basket, and he's become an improved passer. He's got to improve on his turnover numbers and ball security and what have you. But I mean, he's a player who's just taken a huge jump, like you said. Confidence was an issue with him last year. He got a concussion 4 games into the season. I kind of thought this would be the kind of year that he would have. Probably not scoring as much because, going in the season, you would have thought you would have had Keontae Johnson on the wing and inside and what have you. But both he and Trey, and let's not forget what Tyree Appleby's starting to do. Mm-hmm. The way they're sharing that ball, sharing really the point guard duties together, and they're on the floor a lot together. I think Tyree Appleby had 29 minutes last night. He had a really good floor game with 12 points and 6 assists. I think he only had 1 turnover, and he hit some big free throws. So Gators are getting good guard play right now, and they need good guard play right now when you're down, your best player in the front court.
Yeah, I love Appleby's game. Sometimes I'm like, holy cow, how did you take that shot?
How do you take the shot? How does he handle the ball? I mean, he gets by guys. He's got that ball on the string. He makes some defenders look really bad, Shane. Kind of like you used to do at Gainesville Health and Fitness every time.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But he can get to the basket. He beat guys off the dribble, and he's a good shooter, especially when he's left open, and he's not afraid to jack that ball if he's got a guy on him. He's a confident player, and there are times where I think he may be the best player on the team because he makes winning plays. And I think as the season goes on, he's going to make a lot more, and people are going to I'm really starting to fall for Tyree, the way he's playing, the way he's embraced his role, and the way he's becoming a leader. Guys look to him on the team right now.
Real quick, last thing for you, Chris. And we're speaking with Chris Harry from FloridaGators.com. You can follow him at GatorsChris on Twitter. West Virginia, good basketball team going to their ballpark. What do we have to do to beat them?
Well, you got to handle their pressure. They're always going to get up on you. They got that up the line defense that puts pressure on the ball. It's got to be better than it was against Vanderbilt, certainly in the crunch. Castleton and Omar Payne got the start last night. Those 2 guys had never started a game together. They're both in foul trouble in the first half. Omar Payne didn't score last night after hitting I think he averaged 9.5 points and 9 rebounds in his 2 previous games while in the starting lineup for Colin Castleton. He didn't score last night. He was in foul trouble. You can't have your front court guys, and really you only have 2 true post guys. Now, Osai Osifo, I have to say, has really stepped up of late and has given them some nice off the bench minutes. But if you're going to go to West Virginia, and it's not like normal West Virginia going to Morgantown, because they're not going to be fans in the stands like there normally would be. But if you're going to play a Bob Huggins team, you got to expect the guys to be up in your jersey. You got to expect you got to protect the ball, and you're going to have to make shots. I know that stuff sounds obvious, but this is that's a very difficult place to play. It's one of the best teams in the country. I think they're 14th in the country, and great challenge for Florida. And it's going to help their numbers relative to their RPI. But Florida's in second place in the SEC right now. It's a good little. It'll feel like kind of SEC Big 12 weekend. Shane, always feels like to me like a second round NCAA tournament game when you're playing some of these teams. So it's always a fun weekend in between the conference championships and the Super Bowl. Great concept by ESPN. I always look forward to seeing those games.
Yep, should be a lot of fun.
12 hours of great basketball.
Absolutely, should be a lot of fun. We appreciate you taking the time today, Chris. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
See you, Shane. Thank you.
Yep, our winner of the G-Tech survival kit protection thing. Bo Lord is the winner. Bo, our people will get in touch with you for that. Also, don't forget, you can still go to podupwithshane.com, enter your name into the drawing for the Chomp Harder hat. Now, welcome to our Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup here. We're now going to go to the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. We're joined by the PrepZone.com's marvelous Marty Pallman. Good morning, Marty. How are you, buddy?
Good to be with you, Shane. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. So, Marty, we're in the middle of basketball season. It should be winding down now for high schools. Talk a little bit about, some of the games that y'all broadcast and some of the better teams in the area.
Well, this is the last week of the girls basketball regular season, and then district tournaments will be coming up next week. And then the last week of the high school boys basketball season is next week. So we're kind of rounding the corner and heading around third base, I guess you could say, heading for home for the playoffs for boys and girls basketball. So, yeah, not a lot of games left in the regular season. I guess the major story right now, we have two teams in Alachua County who have both kind of been off due to COVID-19 the last couple of weeks. Gainesville hasn't played now in about almost 2 weeks, and the same for Santa Fe. In fact, they were supposed to play each other Tuesday night, and that game was postponed. Gainesville is supposed to get back in action Friday night against Buchholz. They're planning on playing that game, but right now their head coach, Kelly Beckham, has COVID himself. He's hoping to be back to coach, but right now that's not known, and Gainesville is going to keep playing even if he's unable to coach. So they're hoping to continue their season. Santa Fe's been out a couple of weeks, but they're about to start back as well. But that's the story for those two boys teams. And I guess the good news for them is if you're going to have that issue, you want to have it now, and you don't want to have it when you get to the district or the regional because, it's one game or you're done. And if you have a COVID problem then the season's over.
Yes, no doubt. So, Marty, would you say the best team in the area are the Eastside Rams?
Yeah, definitely. Eastside had a chance to see them on Tuesday night against North Marion. Another team who was off a couple weeks, they played their first game in 18 days Tuesday night against Eastside. They had been off because of COVID as well. And Eastside was senior night for them. They had 6 seniors they honored before the game. And they rolled North Marion by 20, 69-49. It was their 14th win in a row. 24 points for Quay Brodos. He was one of the seniors that they honored before the game. 16 for Jarvie Gainey, who's also a senior. 14 for Omar Brown, who's another senior. 15, actually. Those 3 seniors have really been the guys that are leading Eastside. They're just really solid, good defensive team. Pop Williams always has seemingly good defensive teams, but they just have a good inside-outside game, it seems like. They can shoot outside, shoot the 3, but also work it inside as well. Not a big team. They don't have, the guy inside like Santa Fe does, but, Eastside just a good all-around team. And they're 17-1. Now, we'll see what happens when they get into regional play. They'll probably have to play teams like the Villages. Last year, Lake Highland Prep knocked them out down in Orlando. But, Eastside right now. And we're going to see this Friday, tomorrow night when they travel to Hawthorne. That'll be a tough matchup. Hawthorne, a team that beat Eastside a couple years ago. And, of course, Hawthorne won the 1A state title last year. And then Eastside was the last team that beat Hawthorne last year before they won the state title. So it'll be an interesting matchup to see Eastside on the road tomorrow night at Hawthorne. And then the last game for them of the regular season for Eastside will be next week against Gainesville. So, a couple matchups left for them before they head into district play.
Speaking of Hawthorne, both their boys and girls teams won state titles last year. Do they have a chance to repeat?
Well, yeah, I think the girls' team right now is in a good shape. They look good. Of course, the only issue there is there's some really good teams in their region, Wildwood being one of them. They're going to have to work through to get back to Lakeland. They would see them, I believe, in a region final like they did a year ago. And then if they get to Lakeland, there's a possibility of Trenton, a team I've seen a few times who's really good as well. They'd have to play in maybe the state semifinals. But, yeah, Hawthorne right now, they've already beaten one of the top teams in Jacksonville and Oakleaf a week or so ago at the MLK Classic in Hawthorne. So they're playing really well right now. They're going to be at GHS tonight playing Gainesville. I'm going to have a chance to see that game for the Gainesville Sun tonight. So looking forward to seeing Hawthorne girls. And I think a team that has another good chance to repeat. The Hawthorne boys have been up and down a little bit this year. Of course, the first month of the season, all their players were playing football because they were, advanced to Tallahassee, as you well know, the state championship game. And they just kind of started getting back into football shape. But they lost the game to PK Young earlier this month. They actually got knocked off by Williston a week ago, and Williston is 12-4 right now. That's a team they may have to see down the road as well. Williston and Newberry both having good years in the 1A, and Hawthorne did lose Tuesday night to Columbia, but Columbia is another team that we'll have to watch because they advanced to the Final Four last year, and they seem to be getting it going again. But Hawthorne, a chance in 1A. We'll see if they can get it going a little bit. The record's only 9-6, but again, they do play a tough schedule, and we'll see when they play Eastside Friday night how they match up with Eastside.
Marty, who y'all got on the call this week? Broadcast.
Well, Friday night, actually 2 games Friday night. Mike Rideout will be at Eastside and Hawthorne. That'll be a radio and an internet broadcast. I'll be doing video of Buchholz and Gainesville. Those 2 teams will play for the second time this season. It was an overtime game the first time they played. So hopefully GHS will be able to get back at it Friday night. And then Saturday night, we're planning on being at GHS again as they play Vanguard. That's a makeup game from earlier in the year. And then next week, we're got girls district basketball tournaments and some more boys action. So check out the prepzone.com. We'll definitely have a lot of basketball coming up. But busy weekend and busy few weeks coming up.
Let me ask you this before we let you go, Marty. You're talking about how a lot of teams have missed time due to COVID. What happens? So if a team gets COVID during the district tournaments, they're done, basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, you basically have to. I mean, the key there is, you have to usually win. And this year, you have to win your semifinal game and advance to the championship game. So yeah, if you have to forfeit a game, you're out. Right. What
happens if, let's say, it's a 4-team district or whatever, and the district tournament comes around and all 4 teams have COVID? What are they going to do there? Because you can't really wait a certain period of time because then the state playoffs will start, right?
Well, in that case, I don't know. I don't know if they revert to the max preps rankings or how that. You're right. I mean, that would be quite a scenario. But yeah, you're right. That would be something. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see because I think college basketball are talking about how they're going to have trouble having conference tournaments, but. I mean, district tournaments they're planning on playing. I'm interested to see how it happens. Some of these teams have already had COVID issues, but I think you're going to see with all these teams kind of around each other, there might be issues. It's going to be interesting because this is the first year we've dealt with it with basketball. So, I guess we'll see in the next couple of weeks. But I would think in that scenario, the problem with that scenario is that you got to turn around and play in the regional playoffs the next week. So if your team isn't in the district tournament, I don't think you can play in the regional game the next week.
Yeah, it'll definitely mess up the whole chain there of what's going on.
I know.
Marty,
that's right.
We appreciate you taking the time to join us here. It's Marty Pallman from the prepzone.com. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. Be safe, Marty.
All right, QB, good being with you. Thanks.
Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. January is your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. Going to take a first time out of the pro. When we come back, we'll talk a little college football with our man Brent Beaird. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith Personal Injury Attorneys, Orange Theory Fitness, and Dowling Signs. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, podupwithshane.com, and click the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point's where the Gators go to celebrate, with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Nike, Sensei, Prime and Pearl, and opening soon Dave & Buster's. And coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurs Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We'll see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. We're going to go to the Titan MR hotline now, and we're joined by our good friend, college football analyst, Brent Beaird, Heisman Trophy voter. How you doing, Brent?
Well, Shane, I'm doing well. Happy Thursday morning to all. And listen, it's amazing the amount of stuff that's going on. Obviously, the SEC dropped their schedule yesterday. And Shane, before we get into it, just a reminder to our listeners, the ACC drops its schedule today, so that will be interesting. This is kind of schedule week as far as the conferences are concerned. Now, again, obviously with COVID, we hope we don't have what we went through last year, but it's obvious that the commissioners and college football in general, Shane, we're back to playing full schedules this coming year. Got new coaches in place, so listen, brother, there's a lot of stuff going on right now.
It really is. Before we get into the scheduling, Larry Scott, the Pac-12 commissioner, they said, "See you later, my man. We're going to look for a new commissioner." You surprised about that?
No, not at all. And listen, the main reason they did that was their television schedule is coming up for renewal in a couple of years. I believe it's 2024, actually. So they're going to renew that schedule, redo it. And they really needed to have someone else in there besides Larry Scott. Scott did some good things. There are a lot of things that really did not work out there at all. Question would be who might replace him. Some of the names: Ohio State Athletic Director Gene Smith, Stanford Athletic Director Bernard Muir, former West Virginia AD and NCAA executive Oliver Luck, and also Alabama AD Greg Byrne. And there is some interest also on Greg Byrne's part with that job. Not saying he's going to get it, but that's just worth mentioning. So, and Shane, as you know, the commissioner's job, frankly, right now is one of the most, shall we say, prestigious and important jobs in college football, because frankly, these commissioners are running things. We think the NCAA is, but in reality, to me, it's more the commissioner. So what we will see, who makes that change, but coming up, Larry Scott to be out of the Pac-12 very soon.
And also the SEC was supposed to have their media days in Nashville. They're going back to the old Winfrey Hotel and outside. Well, I guess it's in Hoover, not Birmingham. What was the reasoning behind that?
I think they wanted the last time they wanted to be in Atlanta. Obviously, COVID took care of that last July, and They have gone back to Hoover, where they've had it for most of the time, July 19th through 22nd. Shane, frankly, Hoover is really probably the best place for them to have it. It's pretty well centrally located where the media can drive in on most of the school representation. Now, we don't know where it will be in 2022. My guess is it may go back to Atlanta, which frankly to me is the worst place to have it just because of the parking. And it really was not set up very well when we were there a couple of years ago. And then I think most intriguing venues coming up is Nashville. That's going to be coming up in 2023. So Birmingham this year, Hoover. We don't know about next year, and then 23 will be in Nashville.
Okay, I was a little confused there. I think Nashville is where they should hold the basketball tournament every year. They should have media days there. It's my favorite city, so I'm a little biased.
It's a great place. I understand.
Yeah. Let's talk, before we get into the schedules, Brent, let's talk about some of the coaching moves. Let's start with Alabama. Obviously, they lost a bunch of coaches. A lot of them followed Sarkisian. One of the assistants got the head job at Marshall. But Robert Gillespie, former running back for Coach Steve Spurrier, who's coached at Tennessee, North Carolina recently, is going to take over the running backs. I think this is a tremendous hire for Nick Saban.
No doubt. I would agree with that. And for a lot of reasons. And I think, one, anybody who Nick Saban hires has got to be a good recruiter, and Robert is. And Shane, you remember that North Carolina offense last year? You've got Sam Howell at quarterback, and then they had not one but two 1,000-yard rushers. So, look, anytime you can do that, you really know what you're doing. Now, the previous running backs coach was Charles Huff. He is now the coach at Marshall, replacing Doc Holliday, who used to be on the Gators staff. I was curious if you knew Robert well, but look, they're very excited about him coming aboard and what he brings. Now, there's still some rumors about possibly Eddie Grand coming to Alabama from Kentucky, and even Kevin Sumlin. Yes, that Kevin Sumlin from Texas A&M. So there's still a little bit to be done. But Shane, as you said, they're very excited about having Robert Gillespie.
Yes, indeed. You know, he's a Mississippi boy who came here, played for Coach Spurrier. He was teammates with me with the Redskins when Spurrier was there, but got into coaching, didn't make an NFL roster, and has done a tremendous job, had a good career. I think it's a great hire for Nick. Auburn, Tracy Rocker's now back. I feel like Tracy Rocker's coached at Auburn. Not only did he play there, it seemed like he's coached there 3 or 4 different stints. Am I dreaming that, or did that really happen?
No, I think you're right about that. And frankly, he was, and remember, he was defensive line at Auburn from 2009 to 2010. So no doubt he has been there. He came from South Carolina before then. So again, that's your interesting thing with that. But again, there are also rumors, Shane, about him possibly even going to the NFL before it's over. So what we're seeing, guys who are making not one but basically multiple moves in the assistant coaching ranks this year.
Yeah, and then there are reports out there that Auburn didn't want to spend a whole lot of money on recruiting, and their counterpart up the state there spent almost 4 times as much as them.
I was stunned by this, frankly, to be able to see the numbers with this, and I really thought that Auburn had spent more with that. But again, I think that was probably part of the problem that you had with Gus Malzahn. I mean, as far as the numbers, Alabama spent $2.6 million on recruiting, and this is 2019 through 2020, and Auburn spent $648,000 on recruiting too. So, Shane, would you have believed from the time that when you played at Florida to what we see now, how much these schools spend on recruiting?
Yeah, it's crazy. And people have asked me because they've seen how different schools spend so much money on recruiting. It's like, what are they spending it on? And I assume it's flights, private planes, flying to see these kids, dinners. I mean, I really don't know the answer, quite honestly. I mean, heck, if you think about Tennessee, what they spent, maybe, who knows how much they were putting in those McDonald's bags, right?
Well, I think, and part of that now is we are basically in this recruiting dead period over the last few months that is extended to probably, I think it's April 15th. It's when it's going to be. But look, recruiting's big business. Frankly, and that's a really good point. And if you recruit nationwide, you're going to spend more money in order to do that. So I know Alabama's got a lot of recruits from Texas, and again, this is more the 19 and 20 fiscal year. That money probably is a lot different when we get the results for 2021, but still. Shane, regardless, that's a big discrepancy between two rivals.
There's no question. We're speaking with Brent Beaird on the Titan MR hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. You can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beaird. Brent, the Gators lose their quarterback coach, Brian Johnson. He's not going to a college. He's going to go coach quarterbacks for the Philadelphia Eagles. It surprised me a little bit that he wanted to move to the NFL because a lot of people think he's in line to maybe be a college head coach, but maybe Brian's like, you know what? I don't want to have to deal with recruiting anymore.
The interesting thing about that is we're hearing a little bit more that's the reason some of these college assistants want to go to the NFL. And ironically enough, when he goes to Philadelphia, if it shakes out this way, he very well may be coaching Jalen Hurts from Alabama. So, and look, I think, I think we all know that the Dan Mullen basically is your play caller and so forth. But a lot of people thought that Brian Johnson did a really good job this year, and I'm among them at that point. Shane, I'm kind of wondering if that's not what some of this is the fact of you go to the NFL for a few years, you get that on your resume, and then at that point, you're ready to come back maybe and take a head job in college. So I'm not saying he is, but I'm just wondering out loud if that may be the path that Brian's taking.
Yeah, it could be. I do know a lot of guys in that quarterback room are not happy that he left. I mean, they understood he's doing what's best for him, but those quarterbacks loved him for sure. Tennessee hires their man, Josh Heupel. I don't know if it's a safe hire, but, anytime you have a relationship with an athletic director, it's always a good thing. I mean, it's very similar with Scott Strickland hiring Dan Mullen here. Your thoughts? Did you like this hire by Tennessee?
I thought it was fine. I mean, was it an elite coach? No, but at this time of the year, being late January, it's probably as good as they could do. Your point about his relationship with Danny White is a good one. I think that meant that he was comfortable. I think it also means that he probably would get more time. And let's be honest about this hire. With Tennessee losing the number of players in the transfer portal that they are losing, Henry To'oTo'o, who is one of the better linebackers in the nation, and also Eric Gray at running back, for instance, that they lost 4 starters, Shane, the other day in about an hour. So they're really having to restock that roster, even if Jeremy Pruitt had stayed, who, by the way, there's stories yesterday about Jeremy Pruitt going to the Jets, if people are wondering where he's going to end up. So Heupel has done a good job as far as obviously with UCF with their offense. And Shane, listen, you watched Tennessee the last 2 years. Would you agree they've been absolutely abysmal offensively?
So bad.
They don't have a quarterback. That they've struggled at about every position on offense. So I think it's much about that as it is anything else. It's probably, frankly, C plus, B minus higher. That could get much better than that at this point. And that, as you know, they hired a search firm, spent about $120,000, and White goes and gets his former coach is what it amounts to. But I still say right now that's probably about as good as they could do.
Yeah. Other coaching news, Will Muschamp with $12.9 million stuffed in his pockets, been roaming the Georgia campus. He got paid, I guess, last Friday. He got at $12.9 million from South Carolina. He's going to be an analyst for Kirby, isn't he?
Yeah, and it will frankly be interesting to see what he actually ends up doing there. What happened is Georgia came out last week on Twitter and made the statement that Will Muschamp was not an employee at University of Georgia. Well, basically all that was window dressing. So they got the paperwork cleared up, Shane, and he got his $12.9 million settlement, which would be a whole lot easier when you go and be on a staff somewhere. Obviously, he and Kirby are good friends. And everybody thought that this probably would happen. So that will be interesting to see how that goes. And oh, by the way, also at South Carolina, their running backs coach, Des Kitchens, is going to the Falcons. Speaking of the theme of college to pro, that's happening, and Shane Beamer's is going to fill that situation. But yes, Will Muschamp will, and look, probably after what he's done, it probably would be okay with Will, even if he was an analyst and spent time in the office looking at film.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting deal. LSU, I was talking to somebody, and I was just trying to remember who it was, Brent, the other day. We were talking about LSU, and the person I was talking to says Coach O is his LSU tenure is going to end up just like it did at Ole Miss. He won that national title because he kind of had Joe Burrow fall in his lap, and
right.
he had Brady fall in his lap.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Everybody else that he's hired has kind of stunk it up. So do you agree with that assessment from, I can't remember who it was, but I think this year is a big year for Coach O.
I don't think there's any question about that. They've got to prove whether or not that he is going to be an elite coach. Now, they just hired Durante Jones from the Vikings. He was their defensive backs coach there. So pretty much their staff is intact. But see, the thing with LSU right now is that we can't forget is this Title IX situation of the former players who are accused of sexual violence. I mean, there were like, in this big expose, 9 former LSU players. Darius Geis was among the ones mentioned in that article, and like 2 of them had been punished, Shane, and the other 7 out of the 9 were basically nothing happened to them of any note. So I still think that weighs heavy over Orgeron's head over the next few months because of that. If all of that comes down and it's proven that they did nothing, I'm not sure that LSU would have any other response except to get rid of him and clear out a lot of that staff who was there. But to your point, I mean, they're very good on the field. They've got 5 stars all over the place still that they improved toward the end of last year. But there's no question. He's at a crossroads, isn't he?
He really is. Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. This month, get a free annual maintenance plan with every residential duct cleaning purchase. That's $199 value. Their service department's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for your convenience. This Day in Sports, brought to you by Comfort Temp. Brent, were you around in 1904 covering college football?
that was a little bit even before my time.
Yeah. So this is what happened in 1904. The first college sports letters given to seniors who played on University of Chicago's football team are awarded blankets with the letter C on them. So that's when the old Letterman jacket and all that stuff, that happened in 1904. That's brought to you by Comfort Temp. All right, Brent, let's jump into the schedules. Let's start with the Gators. They open up against FAU, then they travel to Tampa to play UCF, and then the defending national champs roll into town. Your thoughts?
Well, I like the fact, and I'm curious if you do too, that they start the season with 2 in-state schools. I mean, they don't have to travel a lot. And, Shane, did you notice that they're going to South Florida on September the 11th? And look, I think that's good for recruiting, don't you?
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Tampa is a big recruiting hotbed of Gator alumni, for one. So, look, if they can have fans in the stands, they'll have more Gators than they will anybody else that's down there. What helps them with the Alabama game is they get Alabama early in the third game of the year, breaking in a new quarterback and basically breaking in an offensive line. And Shane, listen, the amusing thing almost about this is in that September schedule, after the Alabama game on the 25th, they've got Tennessee in back-to-back home games. And listen, that Tennessee game may be almost an afterthought compared to the Alabama game here, but with Josh Heupel coming in from UCF, that's going to be interesting too. I would say, Shane, that this is one of the more intriguing September schedules Florida's had in a while.
Yeah, I agree. There's only one Division I team, or whatever you want to call it, Sanford, on the schedule. You usually have a couple. You usually have 2 to maybe 3 of those, but with the South Florida Bulls on the schedule, FAU, I think those are games that we should play every year. They'll get you ready for Alabama more than Sanford would playing them the first week. So, I'm looking at this schedule briefly right now. Georgia will be tough, obviously. Alabama, we all know. The rest of it's winnable. I mean, at LSU should be difficult. We never play well at Missouri for whatever reason.
No.
The semis aren't very good. We don't know. We'll see what they do next year. Any schedules in the league, I don't want to say surprise you or jump out? Anything jump out at you?
Well, let me mention this. The non-conference games, some of these games really caught my eye. And as I go through this, Georgia plays Clemson to start the year. Mm-hmm. Alabama plays Miami to also start the year. One game that I forgot about, Shane, Auburn goes to Penn State.
Oh, wow.
That's an intriguing game, is it not?
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah. And then LSU goes to UCLA. That's an interesting game there. Mississippi State and NC State. Mississippi State at Memphis. Tennessee plays Pitt, which is kind of an interesting game with them too. Texas A&M and Colorado. Now get this. Ole Miss has here's their non-conference schedule. At least 3 of the games. They play Louisville, Tulane, and they play Liberty. Now, what's amusing about that to me is you've got Ole Miss playing Liberty. Shane, that thing could be 55-50, and that is basically Hugh Freeze with his current team playing his former team. How about that?
Yeah, or I assume they're playing in Oxford.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see the reception that Hugh Freeze gets.
Listen, it would be very interesting, and obviously that would be Lane Kiffin's second year at that point. And I think the thing that you've got there is how much better will they be, particularly if that defense is better. I think that's going to make a major difference for them too.
Yeah, because they probably, I'm thinking right off the top of my head right now, Brent, they probably have the SEC preseason all SEC quarterback and probably the preseason SEC player of the year in Matt Corral, would you say?
Yeah. Yes, he will be.
Yeah. Brent, they talked about media day, the schedules come out, it's a full schedule. Anything about spring ball?
It's funny you said that, because yesterday is the first time that we have actually seen some talk about spring ball. And Georgia, in an article that we saw yesterday, Shane, mentioned having their G-Day game on April the 17th. So that's the first I have seen of, and they're doing some of this planning behind the scenes, but that's the first that we have seen that an actual mention of a spring game. So, and again, how all this plays out, it's still too early to know. But I was kind of encouraged to see that, to be frank with you, and hopefully the sooner that we can get back to that, the better. And look, they'll be still having COVID protocol throughout all that, but a lot of these teams, and I'm thinking about guys like we mentioned the situation with Bryce Young, the Alabama starter at quarterback coming into Florida. Shane, guys like that need a spring, don't they? They need 15 practices and to be able to play a spring game. I mean, even in front of a little bit of a crowd would probably help more than anything else. So we will keep our ear to the ground about that. But I was quite encouraged to see a mention finally of some spring football.
Yep. Before we let you go, Brent, any nuggets out there?
Well, there are a bunch of them about different things that are going on in this point too. I think back in the Alabama situation, just a quick note about them. We mentioned Henry To'oTo'o as a possibility at linebacker. Now again, Alabama is trying to sign Kamar Wheaton. It's between them and Oklahoma. And Shane, let me also mention, before we forget, that next Wednesday is actually the second signing day. Yeah, I think people may have forgotten about that by now, but but keep your eyes and ears open about that, and how important I think that's going to be. We did mention for Florida, C.J. McWilliams has entered the transfer portal. I'm sure you've talked about that a little bit, but folks may have missed that somewhere along the way. Georgia has added Jamil Aday from West Virginia as their secondary coach. And again, a lot of these coaches are still having to fill some of the slots that they have got. And that is certainly one of those. Wan'Dale Robinson is a guy at Kentucky to keep your eye on. He left Kentucky and then he's come back, but they really like him. He was a top 100 recruit. I'll be interested to see kind of where they play him also with that. So that's going to be interesting too. Ole Miss is hiring John David Baker from Southern Cal as its tight ends coach. Jimmy Brumbaugh, if you remember this, was with Tennessee and got in the argument, basically got fired at halftime with Jeremy Pruitt, is maybe going to end up at Ole Miss at this point too. So something else to kind of look for at this time. So, but to say the least, a lot going on. Former Tennessee defense coordinator Derek Ansley is heading to Los Angeles for the Charger staff. So that's another guy going from college to the pros at this point too. So the good thing is, Shane, just an unbelievable amount of stuff that's going on. We'll look forward to the ACC schedules coming out. And look, I think that's good for college football, don't you? And yesterday, the SEC on the SEC network made a big deal out of the scheduling just to get some publicity for college football. I frankly wish, Shane, we could do that year round.
Yeah, I tell you what, I think they're trying to keep everybody's excitement up for the sport, no question about it. And hopefully we can get some spring ball in. And Brent, we appreciate your time as usual, and we will talk to you next week.
Always proud. Take care.
Yep, that's Brent Beaird talking to us on the Titan MR hotline. You can follow him at Brent Beaird on Twitter. We're going to take our final time out of this program. When we come back, we'll wrap up this Thursday edition.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Ribs, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, podupwithshane.com, and click the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us. Welcome back to this Thursday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Center State Bank, we put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida, and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. I want to thank our good friends Chris Harry, Marty Pallman, talking a little high school sports from the Prep Zone, and also our good friend Brent Beaird. Tomorrow's show, we'll have JC, but we'll also have Dr. Kevin Farmer, orthopedic doctor for the Florida Gators. He just came out with a new book talking about sports injuries, I think mostly football related, but it will. I think it's an award-winning book, so we're going to find more out about that. Make sure you tune in, follow us, and like us on Facebook Live, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that good stuff. Tell your friends about us too. We want a lot of people following this program. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Rap Spot. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Take care.